Hello everyone, and welcome to sort of a short-ish, hopefully, guide to Roll20, the website that you probably have heard of at some point, where a lot of people play tabletop RPGs on. Right here, I'm just going to show you how to make a game, the basics of how you actually interact with all the tools available to you, and how you actually need to interact with the character sheet as a player, with a couple of tips and nuances here in case you want to do something a little bit more fancy if you have more experience with Roll20. So, what you gotta do is that you gotta go to create new game. Obviously, ignore the ones there, those are just the ones I'm in. You can give the game whatever title you want. We're just gonna call our game here Butts. And for the purposes of this, we are going to be mainly looking at the 5th edition OGL sheet run by Roll20. Let's see here. OGL? Oh, what? Dungeons and Dragons. Okay, here it is. It is D&D 5e by Roll20, so they changed it from the OGL. You can see that this is the preview of what it looks like. There are other character sheets, and I can probably do a small little addendum video covering the one other one I actually had experience with, so that way we can actually cover everything that it does. But this one right here is the one that is supported by Roll20, and is what we're going to be doing here today. So after you've done all that, you can choose a module or adventure you have. I have Tomb of Annihilation, so I can just make the entire game, and Roll20 will already have it all set up for me. And if you want that, you can. You can even drop in Volo's Guide to Monsters or Xanathar's Guide to Everything, so on and so forth. But you don't need any of that, so all you gotta do now is just hit I'm ready, create game. And now the game is launched. By the way, this is for free members only. I did have a membership, however, I could not afford it consistently, and here you'll see a webcam pop up with my face on. I'm going to be cutting this out because I don't want people seeing my face in this current situation. Or I'll just block it out with, like, editing or something. But if you don't want your face or voice to be seen by others, then all you gotta do is go over to the cogwheel right here in the top right, and it gives you a lot of settings, but the first priority you have is to go to all the way down here. At the very bottom, it says I want to broadcast to others. You can make the choice here. I'm gonna do nothing. Same with receive from others. After that, you hit reconnect, and then boom. All you have is just your avatar, and it will not be broadcasting anything, and you will not receive anything from anyone else. After that, there are a couple of options you actually have here. You can change the chat tech, but I don't even know that much, so you don't need to worry about that. The movable avatar video screens allows you to move the thingy all around Roll20 here, but we're not going to do that. We're just going to put it back into place. And there's a whole bunch of other things. The bar colors, these are going to be important for tokens that you'll be controlling as a DM, unless you're going to be going very bare bones, in which case you barely even need this. I recommend enabling chat timestamps, so this way that if anyone goes away, they can just look and see, oh yeah, when did this happen? But this is a personal option, so anybody who wants to actually see what's going on needs to do this. A lot of these other things you don't need. If you don't like annoying notification sounds, then you want to disable the background chat beep. That can get annoying depending on if you have any spammers in your game, but it doesn't happen that much, you don't need to worry that much. Also, with the player video avatar size, you can even set it to names only, so you can save space on the screen here. I personally go for small, and that's all you really need to worry about here. One other thing, this is the master music volume. So if you are playing music with Roll20, then you are going to be using the jukebox right up here, 2 tabs over from my settings. And everybody would have to lower their master volume or raise it depending on the volume of the music played in the jukebox, because it has two volumes: the set music volume, and then it has the Roll20 volume. So you're just gonna have to be careful with that. Here we have the collection. It has a whole bunch of rollable tables, and what these are is that basically you can set up, like a rollable table. Sorry about that, I just got a Discord notification. We're going to ignore that. But these rollable tables are kind of like the ones that you see in the books, like roll a d8, and this is the option and whatnot. So you can just create one, and here you rename it, and to add options, you just type it in, and the weight is basically how many times it can show up. So let's say I want it to be roll a d20, and this pops up on a 1 through 3. That means I want the weight to be 3. So we want our butts to show up 3 times. Save changes. You can even give it an image if you want, but you don't need to. And you can just do this over and over and over again, and you roll it. Boom. Yeah, butts. And up here are the decks. Don't use this. I don't know how to use it. It's bad. And here is where you can create macros. Macros are a very, very complex thing, and they are not necessary for if you're just getting started with Roll20. But in the description, I will post a few set macros that I actually use in my games, and I recommend other people using in their games. And these are actual macros, not just like little things that you can do to mess with the numbers on Roll20. But that's about it here. Here's the jukebox. As I said, you can add music. You can add a playlist, so you can sort your music, or a track. Now, Roll20 is shutting down Fanbros, which is where a lot of people have been getting their music, so you are going to have to use the My Audio, where you can upload music to Roll20. Thankfully, they did that, and they tripled the space available to all free users, as well as the paid users, so you don't need to worry about that. These three, if you have used these before, go ahead and use them, but I don't personally recommend it. And here is the compendium. If you're a free user, you can search for anything that is available on the public SRD that Wizards of the Coast has officially released. But if you have bought any of the books in Roll20, you will be able to have access to searching through them. So for me, I bought the Player's Handbook. So what I can do is I can look up background. I can just search through the backgrounds. Normally in the SRD you would only have Acolyte, but I have access to all these. I also bought the Monster Manual, so I can actually look up a Beholder. Yeah, I also bought Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. Don't you judge me! And also Vol's Guide to Monsters. However, what you can do, here's a fun thing, is that if you have bought these books, you can actually drag the monster out onto the out here. It gives you its entire information on a character sheet, an already pre-made character sheet. Not only that, it even drops the token completely coded out for you to actually use in combat. And all you gotta do is click one of these abilities, and bam, you get one of the rays. So if you have bought any of the books, then this will be a great thing for you. If you don't, then one thing you are going to have to do is you're going to have to actually make character sheets for the monsters, and then either hopefully drag from the SRD into the character sheet, because you can do that, or fill out the stats manually, which is a bit annoying. But that's that. This is also very useful for players, because as I said, you can drag and drop some things from the SRD monsters into the monster character sheet. You can also do this with player character sheets, with any of the spells, or race, particularly just with the spells and equipment that are inside the SRD. You can drag them into the character sheet, and it will automatically assign every single bit of coding for that character sheet to integrate with that spell, and you'll be free to use it, and you'll still be able to edit it yourself perfectly fine. Here we have the journal. This is the more important thing. In here, you can already see that the Beholder has been added because it has been introduced into the game, so it does automatically do that for you, but it does not sort it very well. It just puts it straight at the top, regardless of anything. So we'll just delete our beholder here. Bye-bye. And you have a baseline. Motherfucker. I want to close this. Okay, it's not gonna let me close it. So, fuck you. However, what we have here is in the journal. As a DM, you have the ability to add things. You can add a character, which is anything that has a character sheet, a handout, or which is just a small little note that can contain images, or mainly just text for your players to view or edit themselves. And you can create a folder to sort this. But for the baseline things, we only need characters and handouts. Now, the handouts are more simple, so I will actually create a handout. It's going to be the mysterious note. It's going to be an... Okay, Roll20 does this weird thing. Yeah, you now know my name is Connor Henderson. But it's going to be in all players' journals, so that means everybody can see it. And it'll be edited and controlled by... No, not me. But it can be edited and controlled by all players. So not just the DM can edit this. And this can be, let's say, the party fund token. So let's actually change that right here. The party fund. And the tags, don't worry about tags. You don't even necessarily worry about images unless you want to be really fancy. The description and notes is where everybody else is going to be typing in, but the GM notes is for you to type in, and nobody else is going to see this. So you have your party fund, and bam, the party can now edit their funds. But now let's worry about the character sheets. We're going to make 2 character sheets, one for a PC, one for a monster. This is going to be Bob, our player character. He is going to be in... Now you have the option to put some characters in all players' journals. This allows them to actually see that character sheet. They're not going to be able to edit it unless you give control of... give editing control by can be edited and controlled by. So we're just going to put this in all players' journals, and we're going to say it can only be edited and controlled by me. Don't worry about the tag still, and we're not going to worry about these 2 things. The image, that's going to just simply be for a portrait. If a player has a portrait for their character, great. It even makes making a token that much easier. And the use default token, that is when we're going to be getting into placing tokens on the map, so we're going to hold off on that for a second. And just a few other things, you can duplicate this in case you want multiples of the same character. You can archive it, meaning you can just put it away in a little folder and pull it out when you need it later. Delete, obviously. Bio and info, this is where they can put anything they want, really. A lot of people use this for their backstories, but you don't really need that right now. Same with GM notes. And the monster character sheet is actually... I'm not going to say simpler, but it is a lot less finagling you need to actually do, but it's a lot more manual work. So here, we're going to call this guy Balthazar. He's not going to be in all players' journals because this is a monster run by the DM, so I'm going to be controlling it. And I already told you everything here. So we're going to look at Balthazar. Given the current patch, when you open up this character sheet, you will always be given this option upon a new character sheet being made. You can use the Charactermancer, which is basically you use the resources available to you via books or the SRD to make a character automated style, and it will guide you through it perfectly fine. You can create an NPC, which is what Balthazar is going to be, or you can edit the sheet directly, which is where the player will have direct control over making their character. But for right now, we're going to make an NPC. And once that happens, you're going to be hit with a lot of just blank spaces here. And we're going to show you what it looks like at the bottom. This is meant to look like what is in the monster manual for a creature stat block. You have the name, you have the NPC type, and a lot of these have gray text to actually give you an example of like what it is supposed to be in the monster manual. All of this is going to have to be manually inputted. It does not do, this has this value, so this will have this other value. It's not going to do that. So we're just going to, so you can see here that the baseline is medium fiend, any alignment, armor class. You can give it any AC you want with any justification for its AC. Same with its HP. You can give it any speed. And here's where you can change its ability scores. And you just got to click on the box, change it to whatever you want. We're going to give him a 300 strength. Because we can. But as you can see, the saving throws and everything did not change. It is not directly influenced by your ability scores. So this is where you're going to have to input a lot of numbers. If you know the monster directly, you can just slowly plug in all the numbers. If it's available on the SRD or in any of the books you've purchased on Roll20, it will be available for you to use. Otherwise, I'm sorry, you're going to have to start putting things in manually. Same thing with the vulnerabilities and immunities and all that. Spellcasting NPC, you can tick this and it'll give your NPC spell slots, and it'll give it an option to be, what is its spellcasting ability? As in, like, is it going to be strength, dexterity, blah, blah, blah. It's a global magic attack modifiers. DC. Does it have legendary actions? Does it have reactions? And you'll see, boom, it has all this available for you to actually input more stuff onto the character sheet beforehand. Just know that if you drag and drop an NPC with spells from the compendium, it's not going to automatically add the spells into the spell slots. It's just going to put it in its features and traits that it has a particular bit of spell casting. So you're not going to really be able to do that. After that, you have your general options. You always want every single character sheet to have always roll advantage. Now, that may seem a little bit weird, but it's not going to be like it rolls 2 dice and then shows 2 different results. It just is going to have 2 boxes on that roll that have the normal roll, and then the roll that would be if you had advantage or disadvantage. Which just saves a bunch of time. You can set it to whisper rolls to you if you want to do things a little bit secretly. Whisper toggle means you'll just have a certain button to where you can just say, whisper to GM, don't. Query is that every single time you click a button, it'll be asked, do you want this to be whispered to you? I don't recommend this because it's going to bog down things a little bit. And always whisper rolls, you know what that is. Don't auto-roll damage. This is just a style of play that people have. If you roll an attack, it normally will not roll the damage and crit. And for this purpose, you're going to have to actually roll the name of the attack after you've made the attack in order to actually see the damage. I always do auto-roll damage and crit just to save time. You don't have to include the NPC names. And add Dex Tiebreaker to initiative. This is so useful, believe me. So many times have I seen creatures with the same dex roll the exact same initiative, and people have to ask, and it's going to be awkward, and they have to input the values differently on the turn order, and it just becomes a whole mess. Always, in every single character sheet, player and DM, look for the Add Dex Tiebreaker to Initiative, and it will save you a lot of headache. Once you're done editing all this stuff with the character sheet, you just hit the cogwheel, minimizes it. And then what you have here is the results of what you have. I have a 300 strength in Balthazar, and as you can see, I can just click strength, and boom, it shows a roll right here. Look, I rolled a natural 3, but I got a 148. But there are still a few other things you can do with this character sheet. This is where your features and traits are. You can put this in, you give it a name, and you just give it a description. And you'll be able to actually change the size of the box so that, depending on the complexity of the thing, and you're good. Then, after that, you have reactions. Same thing. But actions, it gets a little bit interesting. In the name here, you can say this is the action the creature would take, and if it requires a saving throw, then you're going to have to say the creature needs to make this saving throw or suffer this effect. And if it's not, and it's an attack, boom, you can then input the type of attack it is. And this is another time where you're going to have to plug in all the numbers, so that way you can actually get the values properly. So we're going to give him a +3 to hit, range of 10 feet, no target, and he's going to do 3d7, because we're on Roll20, we can do that damage. And we just click that, boom, you see? Rolled a 16 to hit, did 9 damage. And that's all you really need to worry about with this character sheet. Now, you can't change crit ranges on monsters, so if you know that a monster is going to be able to crit on a 19 or 18 through 20, you're going to have to actually look at the roll by hovering over here. It'll show you the dice map. It rolled a natural 13, and it got a 3 modifier. So if it does that, and you see the damage of the that it does here, you're then going to have to personally roll the dice. And to roll the dice, you have 2 options. You can do /roll, not toll. Why can't I roll? And then you just put in whatever dice that you want, and it'll do this for you. Now, if you're like some other people I know, well, actually, we'll get to that, because we're dealing with the very core things for all players and DMs to know. But now you know how to work with a monster character sheet. That is Bob. And well, now it is time for Bob. I'm not going to show you how to make the character monster because it will guide you through it anyways. So we're going to show you how to edit the sheet directly. This is for you players. Here, it is meant to look a lot like your baseline D&D 5e character sheet. If you have played D&D IRL, you know what this looks like. In here, you put your ability scores. You don't put it in the big box. I don't care what you say. You put the ability score in the little circle, and then it will automatically change the modifier for you. Because you see right there, this actually gets automated. And up here, you choose your class. And here's where more automation comes in. You can choose, let's say, Barbarian. It will automatically give you proficiency and strength and constitution saving throws, so be sure to actually choose a class. The subclass doesn't do anything. You can just write down your subclass. And level, we can put in our level, and it will change our proficiency bonus right there, and it will the amount of hit dice we have, so on and so forth. Race, this will do nothing for you, but you still need to put it in. Subrace, same thing. Once you minimize that, you will then have the ability to input your background, your alignment, and your XP. And it's pretty simple there. Inspiration, this is you just tick it, you know you have it, and to mark down your proficiencies, you can literally just tick the boxes and you know what you have. With your hit points, you just type it in like you have for any other character sheet. Personality traits, ideals, bonds, and flaws, write them out any way you see fit, and when you're done, just hit the cogwheel. Boom. And this is all super simple stuff that you have here, but it's time to see a little bit more of the complicated stuff. And here we have the attacks and spellcasting in the middle. What you want to do is that you want to hit the plus button, and you're going to get all this asking you a bunch of questions. The name is self-explanatory. The attack right here, this is determining what stat is being used. And then it's going to be asking you if you have an extra modifier on top of your attack roll. And obviously you tick whether or not you're proficient in this attack. Normally you would be. Range, if it's a ranged attack. Magic bonus will affect both the attack roll and the damage roll. So if you have, let's say, a +1 longsword, you will be doing +1. You just put 1 here, and then it will affect both the attack and damage roll. Crit range, you can actually edit this, so you can even lower your crit range down just to play around and see what your crit damage is. But if you're like, say, a champion fighter or a hexblade warlock, you can input a 19 here, and the character sheet would know, oh, this guy crits on a 19 with this attack. Great. Damage, this is where you just put in your dice. Now, here is a little thing for all of you great weapon fighting people should know for this character sheet. We all know that with great weapon fighting, if you roll a 1 or 2 on the damage of your attack, you get to re-roll that damage, but only once. And you're like, how would I do that in Roll20? Wouldn't it be kind of awkward to keep rolling the dice? It would. So, for the thing here in the damage, what you want to do is, for a greatsword, 2d6, and what you want to put in is RO less than sign 2. What this will do is that whenever you click this attack and you roll the damage, you will still roll your 2d6, and Roll20 will identify if you had rolled any 1s or 2s, and then it will re-roll them once, like in Great Weapon Fighting. So, always use this. RO less than 2 if you're a Great Weapon Fighting character. And then for the damage bonuses, you decide your stat, and whether or not it has any flat bonuses. The damage type is slashing, and here's something for all of you to know. In the crit, I do not know if it does it exactly this way, but if you do not put in the exact damage that you have here, it will only do the baseline 2d6 that is in the crit. I have not seen this enough, but I recommend it anyways, especially if you play in games that have been inspired by me, where we use exploding dice on crits. So keep that in mind. And if your weapon does additional damage, you can just tick this, and you have all these things here. If it has a saving throw, you can tick that. You can even give it a description if you want to be flavorful, and it has a saving throw effect. So you are good there. That's all you have to really need to worry about. With items, you just give it a name, and its weight, and its quantity. However, you see this little gray circle here? You can tick that, and it will actually mark whether or not it's equipped. You can use it as a resource, but hitting it as using it as a resource requires an API script, which I don't know how to make, so don't worry about it. It has an attack. This is mainly if you drag and drop a weapon in from the compendium. You drag and drop it into your inventory, it will create an attack for you immediately. So, if you're going to do that, I recommend unticking this box and making the attack yourself, because if you have multiple versions of the attack, where it's like you have Hex or Hunter's Mark, and you want to use that when you're swinging with your short sword, you don't want to have 2 short swords in your inventory. You just want to have one, but you have 2 attacks. And you can just do this with everything here. You can drag and drop it in from the compendium. And as you can see, these are the coins that you have. You have copper, silver, nobody uses this, gold, and platinum. Here we have your tool proficiencies and your custom skills. You would mark if you have proficiency, expertise, like a rogue or bard, or jack of all trades, just like a bard. So we're going to put in jack of all trades, actually, and it will show that since that it's using strength, and you're having jack of all trades, you have an 8 modifier. And then you can just click it, and then you get your ability check here. Same thing with just these. You click the name, you get the roll. You click this, you get the roll. That is really weird. Don't worry about that. That is probably just because it doesn't have a name. And with other proficiencies and languages, you just mark down what you have. That's pretty basic. And if you hit the little lock here, you can move around or delete anything you have. If you have not actually put anything in, you will not be able to delete it. Features and traits, the way this works is that you give it a name, its source, and what type of the source it is. This doesn't really matter for what affects the character sheet, it's more just for how you remember things. Same thing with the class resource, you just type in class resource here, its total, and what you currently have. All this is pretty simple, and there you go. In bio, this is meant to also look like the base character sheet. The character appearance, this is your description of it. You can't put in an image, but that's where the portrait is and bio and info is for. Allies and organizations, this is just all stuff you type out. And now spells. This is something a little bit more complex. If you are not a spellcasting class, the sheet will not automate you to have any spells. However, you can still personally edit it yourself. So your spellcasting ability, let's say, is Charisma. It will automatically determine your spell save DC and your spell attack bonus. Now, there are some items and feats that do change your spellcasting DC and your attack bonus, but it's universal. So if you have 2 things that have different DCs, both are spellcasting based, then you're going to have to actually say, oh, I'm using this, so the DC is going to be higher, and it's a little bit awkward. That's the one real downside this character sheet has. But that's not too big of a deal. And here, it will also, if you have a spellcasting class marked, it will show you your spell slots for your level. And in cantrips, this is going to be the same for all the spells, so here's how you do it. You mark down the name, the school it has, its drop-down menu, whether or not it's a ritual, its casting type, blah blah blah, so on and so forth. Now here's something that I need every single person, new or experienced in Roll20, to know. If the spell does not require a saving throw against damage, or is not an attack roll, you need to have it as a spell card. This will purely give the description, and it will say what happens if they fail the saving throw. You do not need to mark down the saving throw, because nothing needs to actually be rolled. The DM can just ask, boom, right there. However, if it does require a saving throw or an attack roll, don't use spell card and then deal with the damage in the description. Don't do that. That is annoying. Also, So what you want to do is you want to hit attack if it is like that. You choose your spell attack. It just says whether or not it's melee or ranged. Up here is your spellcasting ability. Normally it would be defaulted to spell, which is your spell attack bonus up here, or your spell save DC. However, since that we're not an actual spellcaster, and quote unquote, we need to personally do this ourselves. So it's not going to be that bad. And then you put in the damage and the type. If it has a second damage, same thing there. If it has healing, also there. And if you have a feature that allows you to add your ability modifier to the damage or healing, then boom, you just take this, it's all good. Cantrip progression, what this is basically, you know, as you level up as a character, your cantrips do an additional die of damage at 5, 11, and 17. So what this does is that if you click this, you'll be able to do, make sure the cantrips actually follow along. I don't know what cantrip beam is. I've never seen that. I'm pretty sure it's talking about Eldritch Blast. However, normally you just go with cantrip dice. But if you do have Eldritch Blast, go with cantrip beam and put in the comments how it goes. So we got that. If it has a saving throw, boom. If it only has an attack roll, don't worry about it. You don't need to worry about higher level casting because you can't cast cantrips at higher levels. And you can include the description in the attack, but you don't always need to. And there you go. That is how you do spells. You can, once again, drag and drop spells into the character sheet for you to actually just put in normally. If it's not available to you, you are going to have to put it in manually, and I apologize. And here is a lot more complicated stuff, but this is the last of the character sheet I will be needing to show you for the time being. Here you can actually change up your character by saying, oh yeah, I'm a barbarian, but my hit die has actually been reduced to a d10 for some reason. I don't know why. If you're a large creature, you will be needing to put in that little asterisk right there to show the multiplication. Because if you're a large creature, your carrying capacity is doubled. If you're a tiny creature, it is halved. The global magic attack modifier, this will affect, I believe, just your spellcasting attack modifier. But if it does affect all of your attacks, then there you go. It will affect all of your attacks. And your magic caster level, this is where we can actually give our barbarian spell slots. So we're going to say he's a 9th level caster. And if we go back into spells, you can see that he has spell slots up to that of a 9th level spellcaster. And then spell save DC mod, this will affect just this spell save DC and not any custom DC you set. So it is going to be a little bit weird. Spell icons, I actually don't... Okay, this is concentration and ritual only. So if you only want to see those, you can do that. If you're a halfling, you can tick that you have the halfling luck, which will re-roll your first nat 1 of every single roll. Arcane Fighter and Arcane Rogue basically just give you the spell slots and intelligent spellcasting ability modifier that an Arcane Trickster or an Eldritch Knight would have. And if you're multiclassing, this sheet will let you multiclass up to 3 times. You better not pull any absurd shit. But to do that, you just tick the box, you show your second class, you pick it, the level of it, boom. If you want to have a custom class, then you can also do that here. It mainly just is your saving throw proficiencies, if it has spell slots, its hit die, and its spellcasting ability. Other than that, not much. And if you have additional spell slots, then you can actually modify this even further. Up here, we have our saving throw. Up here, we have our ability score modifiers, meaning we can increase our strength even further, because since that we said this is a barbarian 20, we can say he gets +4 to strength and +4 to constitution. If you look back in core, he has 24 and 14. So this will be a way to actually make sure that you can change your character without actually changing the stats on the left. That's very good if you're like fighting shadows or you drink a potion of strength or whatever. Initiative modifier, you put this in and it changes your modifier of initiative. Initiative style, with initiative, this will actually roll only once as opposed to twice like everything else. So if you have advantage, all you need to do is just go to advantage or disadvantage here, and you're good. And remember, add Dex Tiebreaker to initiative. Armor class tracking, automatic. This is... I recommend keeping this on because if you drag and drop certain pieces of armor, it will already have that there. But if you are, let's say, a monk, dragonborn sorcerer, or barbarian, your AC, you can then say, is 10 plus this, and your AC will be determined over here. So you'll be able to actually control that. And since I fucked the character sheet a little bit, the spellcasting stuff vanished. Be sure to actually make sure you have all that solidified. I'm sorry if it causes you troubles later on. Allow shields, yes. And here you have attribute options. And then you have HP modifiers. I'm not entirely too sure what this does. I have not finagled with it, so don't worry about that too much. This is your saving throw modifier. You can put in the global saving throw modifier here at, let's say, 5 if you're a paladin, and this will affect all of your saves, giving them an additional +5. On your skills here, you can mark whether or not you have this normally or expertise. And for the sake of time, you can even click Jack of all trades, and it will add half your proficiency bonus to all these skills, including initiative. Passive perception modifier in case, let's say, you have observant. And up here, you can change this character sheet to an NPC. I have not personally done this with a pre-filled out character sheet, so I don't recommend it if you're a player. If you're a DM and you want to experiment, feel free and go ahead. Be sure to always have it roll advantage. You can have it set to whisper toggle if you wish, but you don't always have to. Always roll damage and crit. Core die roll, you do want to have it be a d20, but you can actually change it up a little bit if you are playing like what you want to try and be a different system. But I don't recommend this. Your proficiency bonus, it can be by level or the proficiency die, which is in the DMG, which is an interesting rule. I actually want to try that a little bit. And here you can actually just show the global modifier field over here. And what this do is, like, you have Bless. It'll change up your attacks and your AC and your ability checks. So that will be very helpful if you're a type of character that does this all the time, considering this sheet doesn't have its own thing default that you can put in. So I recommend having this available if you are using Bless often, players. You can add your character name to your template. You can if you want to. Auto-level calculations, yes. Encumbrance, yes. We want to go with the simple one because the variant is dumb. Inventory, yeah, you want everything here to be compendium compatible. And with ammo tracking, it does say it has API required. And with API required, that is just coding that it's very hard to do. And show exhaustion tracking, this can just be you mark down a level of exhaustion. And if you don't feel like you made your character well, you can just click on the character mancer, and there you go. And that sums it up for the character sheet. Now, for the last little bit you have here are the tools you have available for you on Roll20. Let's go for the basics here. You have your mouse tool, which if you right-click can let you drag around. You can zoom out. You can hold down left-click to ping, and you can highlight things, so you can actually move tokens that are on the map. Over here, you have your various levels of, you have your various layers. You have your objects and tokens, which is where all the players, what the players are going to be seeing and controlling. You have the map and background, which is where you put the map and background. And then you have the GM info overlay, which is just stuff for you to see, and dynamic lighting. I did not realize, oh yeah, I did end my subscription, but I still have access to dynamic lighting at this current time. And what dynamic lighting is that it is a more advanced system on Roll20 to where on this layer, you can draw shapes to represent walls, and you can give objects and tokens the ability to emit light and see things, so that way the players don't just see the entire map. I personally really like this, and a lot of people I play D&D with also really like it. However, some others despise it. Use at your own discretion, and if you're already spending money on Roll20. Over here, we have our shape, our drawing tool. We have a draw shape. We can just draw squares here like nobody's business. Change the color, and we can even change its interior color. And we can even change the size of everything here. We also even have polygon line, and you can do that. You have text where you can put in text, change its font size and its font itself, and that's good. You can then clear all drawings. Yes, clear them. So it's very easy there. And this is the also animated effects that you have if you're a pro member of Roll20, which is what I was, but you don't need to worry about this. This is just to be a little bit fancier. This is the zoom level, but we already have this, so we don't need to worry about that. And here we have the measuring tool. This is very useful for players or DMs that want to see, oh, hey, can I get here? Or what's the radius of this thing? You can snap at the center, which is where it just looks at the middle of a square, and it does it there. If you do it snap the corner, it follows the line. But if you do no snapping, it's a very free-form thing. So you can even set to hide it from others or show it. Now, if a player hits hide from others, the DMs will still be able to see it. So don't get mad, players, if the DM comments on that. And here we have the hide and reveal areas. This is where the DM can obfuscate information from the players. And if you don't have Fog of War enabled, which is where... Fog of War is a little bit weird. Basically, if an area is revealed, it will no longer be black, it'll be dull gray, and the players know they have went there. And if they return, they will see things normally. And the hide areas will basically say they need to actually get there in order to see it, and then you need to personally reveal it. Yes, I will turn on Fog of War. Now the players can't see anything, and I hide areas specifically. So even if they cross here, they're not going to see it. But if I reveal areas, they can now see this entire area. If you want to actually hide information from the players on a map, you can do this, which is the free version of dynamic lighting. I personally don't think it says clean, but it's free and easy. And here is one of the most important things for you to have, the turn order, for when you roll initiative. When you tell everybody, roll initiative, they go to their character sheets, and for the monsters here, you see it has the little initiative thing. What you need to do, if you want to roll initiative, is that you need to have a token representing the character sheet. Not mechanically, just you need to click on a token. And that token will then be put onto the turn order with the initiative rolled on that character sheet. That is where it happens on the monster character sheet, and on the player character sheet, right there, you can just click the word initiative. And it will tell you you needed to click a token. And here are a few options on the turn order once everything's set up. You want to hit descending once everybody has it, so you can actually just go from the top initiative to the lowest. You can set it alphabetically if you want. And miscellaneous, don't worry about this. Now, if you want to put in something to like track rage or the duration of a spell, you just want to put in the name of the spell, like bless. And then you want to put in round calculation. What this does is that if you put in -1 every single time you click this little arrow to get to the next turn, and you hover over the turn where this is going to be, it will then reduce it by 1, showing the duration is left. It doesn't actually, and you can put in 10 for the number of rounds is in the spell or the rage, and you just put -1, and it'll slowly reduce it, and everybody knows what round they're on at that. And then you can remove all turns here. Yes, you want to clear it. And then once you're done with the turn, you just hit the X, it's gone. And here is where a lot of people that I play D&D with just use the die roller. And it's like a little grid here. You can hover over, like, let's say I want 4d8. You click that, it'll roll 4d8 like that. And you can ask, do I want it sent to the GM? Do I want it done in double brackets? And let me show you what the double brackets does. What this does is that it basically turns it into a little box to where it's very small, very clean. You can hover over to show the dice that are rolled. I personally do this, and I also type the double brackets as you see here. And that is where you can put all your dice and modifiers. But that is what you can do. I don't know what fudge does. Don't worry about it. If you hit the exclamation point, these will become exploding dice, which is where if you roll maximum on the die, it will roll again and keep adding to the result, because you can see there's more than 5d4 there. The double exclamation points are also exploding dice, but it shows that the individual roll just keeps going up, which I don't advise because it doesn't look right. I don't know what exclamation point P is, so don't do that. If you go to the advanced die roller here, you go to the older one, and you can actually input, I want like 6d20 plus 52, and then you get 6d20 plus 52. So if you want that, you can. You can mark down whether you want it exploding, separate, or compounded, like Shadowrun. And the target number, this is just if you want to actually do what other systems do and show, like, success ratings, but you don't need to worry about that. And the very last, and this is just the help and docs. This lets you go wherever you need to actually learn more about Roll20. Now, the last two things for you to need to do are the uploading and the map. We're going to look at the uploading here. If you have spent money on Roll20, you can actually look at your marketplace purchases. These are the things that I have bought. This can be for maps, tokens, and other various things. Subscription sets, you can also look at all this. I have personally not. However, since this is going to be for free users, you want to look at free assets. And it will already have it all sorted, and you can look for various tokens or objects here that you can use for maps. Up here, you can look at tokens, maps, tiles, textures, portraits, and everything. And then if you still can't find anything, you can just look up here, and it will actually search the internet for what is available for them to use, and you're going to be good. However, if you have very specific images that you want used for a map, a token, an object, you can go to My Library, you can hit Upload, and you can choose a file from your computer, and you can just drag it in, and you will be able to use it. Now, if you're a free user, you will only be able to go to 100 megabytes worth of content to actually have. If you go over that, you're going to have to delete things, and this is where it shows your uploads, and that you're going to have to actually manage them and delete them as you go. Which is why I personally think that, at the very least, if you're a very dedicated DM with a lot of content, you're going to want to use at least the $5 subscription to Roll20. But you don't need to worry about that. And there are many places that you can use to make tokens. However, you don't need to worry about that because you can just literally drag the image out here. It will conform to the square, and this will represent a token, and that is all you need to do for it. And then you can actually tie it to a character sheet. Then you have the maps. You have the base map, and you can create a new page. What this is here is that you have another standard 25 by 25 grid. 25 by 25. And the page settings here, you can change however many spaces there are on it. With the scale, 1 unit, which is a space, can represent any number of a measurement. The background, you can even have the map be blue if you want. You can say whether or not you want the grid, and you can change the size of each of the spaces. You can make it a hex, you can make it squares. You can do measurement. I recommend keeping D&D 5e 4e compatible, and that's all you really need. For color, that's just for this thing of the grid. Opacity, that is if you want people to see the grid at all. Fog of War, we already showed what you need for Fog of War. Don't worry about Advanced Fog of War, it's bad. Don't use it, it's just bad. Dynamic lighting, use if you feel like you're confident enough of this. Play on load, this will actually let you play a very specific track or playlist when you actually move onto this map and you move other players onto this map. This way you can actually immediately set the tone and you don't need to worry about it. And here we save our changes. Boom. I will spare your eyes of that bright blue now. And those are all your major tools for Roll20. Now, the last thing we actually need to worry about is integrating a token with a character sheet. Now, since we're on the dynamic lighting layer, we need to actually right-click the token, and we have various options here. We can add a turn to it, we can edit it, not really, delete it, copy it, paste it, undo it. To front basically means that if you have two tokens right next to each other and one overlaps, sometimes one will be on top of it, others won't. And to back to front just shows which will overlap which. Advanced, you can group this. I recommend not doing this. It's a drawing. I also don't know what this will do. Flip horizontal just changes its positioning, and you don't need to worry about that. Set dimensions, you can have it fit a very specific size on the map. However, we want to hit layer, and we want to go to token layer. And then we want to go back to objects and tokens. Now it's a proper token. And you'll see you have these 5 bubbles pop up. The red, the green, and the blue. What you want to do here, first of all, is you want to hit the cogwheel. And the options you have here is that you want it to represent various characters. We want this to represent Bob. Now this will be looking at Bob's character sheet, and we can hit these drop-down menus for whatever is in his character sheet. We can even hit that we want it to show his nameplate and give the nameplate a different thing. Now in these bars, you can assign whatever you want. However, the two things you always need are HP and AC. The default that the compendium uses is that green is HP and blue is AC. Now, if you ask me, red should be HP and green should be AC. So when you actually do that, you want to scroll through here until you get to the H's with HP. Let's find it. There we go. And since that we marked in 65, Bob's character will now have 65 out of 65 health. With AC, we just put that there, and it will show that he has 13 AC. And the blue, you can use that for whatever you want. I personally use it for temp HP. And if you actually want to show the bar for your player, and to keep track of something, you can even do this as a player, just it won't look like this. You can put in that you have 66 out of 66, and then it will create a bar for you. Then if you want to go to advanced, this is for DMs only, you always, for player character tokens, want to hit name, bar, and you just want to click all of these. Then, if it's a monster, you can select these as you see fit. I don't recommend using the bars unless you think that your player should know the monster's HP. And then with the aura 1 and 2, this is if you just want to give something like an aura, like Spirit Guardians. Emits light and has sight. This is only valuable if you're using Fog of War or Dynamic Lighting. If you don't use it, then you don't need to worry about this. And we leave it at that. But I will show you what the auras look like. You can even say that they are squares. And you see this this yellowish circle around here? That is the aura that this character is now generating, and all players will be able to see it. And now to actually tie a token to a character sheet, we want to go back to the character sheet, we want to hit edit, and then we don't need to worry about the portrait right now, but we want to hit it with use select token. Now whenever we pull out now we can just drag this character sheet out onto the map, and it will use the token that is integrated with the character sheet. Just know that you should finish all editing on the token before you tie it to the character sheet, because it will save it there and it will become complicated otherwise. The GM notes just lets you mark down things you want for that character. And lastly, with the tokens, you have this little thing, which is just a whole bunch of icons that you can put on it. And you can just fill up the character sheet with it. X usually represents it's dead. These dots the players can use to represent whatever they want. I usually use this to represent height and flight. And if you hover over any of these tokens, you can actually hover over it, and you can hit a number, and it will show that number with that icon to represent whatever you want. And there you go. You can mess around with this however else you see fit. And I hope that... And that's basically it. I hope that this seemingly intended to be short, but actually much longer character sheet for using Roll20 for the 5e character sheet OGL was useful. For those of you new DMs and players to Roll20, I'm sorry that the site is still not the best, but it is what we have, and let's make the best use of it that we can. I hope you all have a good day, and have fun with D&D. Bye-bye.